Why is my ACOG on fire? Well, I've heard the ACOG is the worst optic ever, but also that it's an indestructible tank, so I thought I'd let you decide for yourself. If you paid close attention to my top versus side ACOG video, you would have noticed that the rear objective lens was kinda not doing so well. You can see foggy glass in multiple scenes throughout the video, so let me explain what happened. When we decided to weld the RMR mount to the front of the TA01 and an ACOG, we pushed the limits to make the mount strong by going beyond the few tack welds. When we did this, on the last of all the tack welds, it got a little too hot and blew a hole in the sidewall of the housing, and if you watch close, you can see the nitrogen pop out of the side as this happened.
Blew a hole in the ACOG.
Did it?
Yep.
We should have brazed the mounts instead, but the deed was already done. We do not recommend doing this yourself, or really at all. These are obviously waterproof optics, and as we cooled it down, the water was immediately sucked into the housing because of the heat. The ACOG does not have any electronics like other optics, so we don't have to worry about failure by water. Unless you're the TA02, of course. It was hard to get the water out, so we removed the rear section and drained it out manually. It's the prism.
Flip it over.
Oh yeah, there it went. On top of this, the partial ignition of the nitrogen put a smoky film over the prism and the front lens, rendering the ACOG unusable. As I'm testing the top-mounted SRO at the range, I looked through the unusable ACOG, and to my surprise, the lens had cleared up over a few days while sitting, and we're back in action. Now I gotta see if this damage affected the zeroing.
Up by itself.
Because it probably purged, right?
Yep, the nitrogen was purged and then it lost it, but now it's back to clear. I can see it again. Oh wow. I'm gonna leave it there for a sec. We saw the damaged ACOG. Still slaying.
I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, it was destroyed, but now it's working like nothing.
Right?
American made. The only thing good American made.
Yeah. Well, the ACOG is still working, even out to distance.
The ACOG with a hole in it still works. Still zeros, still holds zero. Thing is a beast.
This optic did not want to die, so we gave it a new death sentence. Of course, the SRO is perfectly fine, so let's pretend for some not-so-realistic reason our mount came loose, and the ACOG just so happened to fall under a heavy-moving object, like a car.
Don't, my ACOG fell. Stop!
I warned the driver to stop, but then like a jerk,
Back up, you ran over my ACOG. No! Oh, dude.
they pull forward, running it over, yet a second time.
What the heck? Well,
Let's mount this bad boy back on the rifle, hand tight per instruction, and see what she does. Still working. Out at the long range, I wanted to show you what I'm actually seeing. There's still some smoky film on the lens, but it's still usable. It's a good thing that the ACOG was only ran over by a more compact vehicle. I could only imagine what would happen if a Tundra that weighs over 5,000 pounds ran it over instead. It probably wouldn't work anymore.
Size of this for fire through number. This one is an everyday purchase.
That's awesome, but we don't want this happening, so we used a military method and tie down important equipment to the rifle so that it doesn't fall off next time. Well, some new recruit tied it down to a car for some reason instead of the rifle, and some other joker took off. Geesh, these new kids don't follow directions very well. After some remedial counseling, we checked for damage or broken glass with no signs that the ACOG was unfit for another deployment. We mounted it back to the rifle and checked for any deviation in impacts. Still good, dead on from where we left off. Because we cannot kill this ACOG, we have accused it of witchcraft. We have decided that we don't need any evidence or knowledge as to why it's been able to endure, so we sentence it to death by burning. The ACOG does have some rubber seals in both the turrets and the rear of the housing that could melt, and the heat could affect the internal parts. The fiber model may have some issues with external melting, but after baking this guy for about 5 minutes,
It's been burning for almost 3 minutes.
to the point you couldn't even touch it.
Oh yeah, it's hot. Whew. It's hot. There we go. Cool down, buddy. Yeah, it sizzled. It's hot. Ooh, that's hot.
We dumped some water on it to cool it down. After the steam wore off and it was touchable, we went to mount it back and check if the heat did anything. Rubber seals are still good on the turrets, but when we dumped the water on it, not only did the heat suck the water back into the optic, but it pulled charred smoke back in with it, ruining the ability to see through it once again. We opened up the back to get the water out and then tried to clean the prism to see.
I can barely see the 50 meter, but
The front lens is still smoky.
did the first couple not hit?
They hit.
Oh, did they? Two more real quick. It's so hard to see because there's a water bubble right in the middle of the reticle. So,
A quick note for the bushcraft types. When we had the rear lens off, we noticed that this could actually be used to start a fire or burn helpless ants like a magnifying glass. Just a little FYI, even though this lens still had water trapped in the glass. Nated Imperial Machine Co. came to the rescue with a little MAP gas torch to evaporate the water out and release any other water out of the bottom here.
wow. Just basically boiling.
Now we just need to clear up the front lens. Some rinsing water should do the trick. We're back in business and now realize this is not any kind of sorcery here. It's just one durable optic. Testing the impacts again, this optic cannot be drowned, crushed, dragged, or even burnt to death. If a lot of people find out about this robustness, they may not like it, so we gotta be careful no one puts out a hit on it. Wait on the street as we got some wise guy making us look bad. Goes by the name of ACOG. Send the boys to take care of it. The guys up top decided to send some hired help to dispose of this old boss to take over the market. This is Vortexi Razoroni. Emerged on the scene several years back and has taken out multiple players just by himself. He doesn't care how loyal you've been or how long you've been in the game. You offer him the right deal and he'll make sure you disappear. This is Sigoni Tangaretti, an even newer help with deep connections at the top. He knows that Razoroni has been around in the position he wants for himself, but for now an alliance is more useful. Both of these guys took a personal interest in this hit.
Yeah, another sticking.
What's done is done. Time to get rid of the evidence and start building new business relations in town now that the old-timer is finally gone. At After 3 days of being dead, the ACOG rises from its grave, ascending to glory after leading so many through darkness. We can finally move on into better times now that we have been left with a higher standard to live by. Or has this optic just finally fallen from grace? Well, I can tell you it's about to fall 50 feet from here to there because this thing wants to stick around a bit longer. Before we watch that drop, let me silence the skeptics that think gravel isn't brutal enough to test the strength of this ACOG. Before I got to the range, I first headed to my local water dam to do a bridge drop. I'm almost 6 foot, so if we multiply me this many times, we get a 35-foot drop, not on gravel, but on solid concrete. That did not sound good, but I can't go easy on this optic.
Just raised it up.
Oh, that didn't shatter.
The rear glass had internal cracks from the heat and trauma earlier in the video, but still held up, and we can still see through the optic. Now back to the range, I'm going to throw this ACOG off this hilltop here directly onto the gravel. Another chance to break the lens after our bridge drop.
Right there.
After inspection, the glass is still unfazed, so let's see if the ACOG is still on target.
Let me try hold right. I'm gonna hold left edge, ready?
That sounds like a hit.
It's low, so hold on. Listen real quiet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we continue going left a little bit. 1, 2, 3. We'll try that. Center. Here we go. Ready? Almost center.
It's still rocking, and I also want to give some credit to this stock TA51 mount. It may not be pretty or super lightweight, but this sucker has taken all the beating alongside the optic. When I ran it over, there was a slight bend to the screw post, but it still clamps and holds zero just fine. Both of these are fit to last a long time of military service, not only domestically, but also abroad, for what may be the last deployment before its retirement. Even the caps on the ACOG have much thicker, stronger sidewalls than modern $2,800 scopes in comparison. Here you can see how much thicker the ACOG cap walls are, which is also why they held up to the abuse. I'm willing to bet after these impacts that it could handle just about anything, even larger, more powerful computer-aided graphics. After being rushed to check for traumatic optic injury, the ACOG has been cleared without needing a medical discharge. It still has plenty of fight left in it.
There goes. So it's about 3 inches left. Make sure turrets still work. Let's go right. 4, it's 1 inch. Yeah, those are all hits.
Because this optic defies planned obsolescence, it could be dangerous to other competing parties. In order to make this optic look outdated and get you to buy another setup, it has been sentenced to death by... Many of you have seen the famous photo from a Marine that had a 7.62 bullet hole in the side of his ACOG. I was always curious if it was still functional, and the only way to know is to shoot it and see if it holds up. Against SS-109 green tip, of course. So let's finally put this thing down for good.
I'm gonna go for the D.
To the Honorable number 867337, may this ACOG finally rest in peace. That's what you get when you mix iron oxide with aluminum powder. A very hot combination.
Whoa.
Wow, dude, perfect.
Because this 3,000 feet per second impact was so powerful, there is a chip missing in the super thick rear glass. Of course in the center where I need to see, and some small cracking in the front lens. Pressure, fragmentation, and vaporizing aluminum did do some serious damage. If you watch closely at the rear lens, you can see the glass chips flying off the back piece where my eye would be. I'm gonna put on some safety glasses to avoid small glass particles going into my eyeball, and peek slightly to the side of the rear lens damage to see if the ACOG can still get hits on target.
Let me do this, listen. Elevation, or the windage turret works. Elevation turret works. Let's mount this bad boy directly on. Yep. I need eyes, just in case I'm getting glass out of the back of this. You ready? Let's see if it's even on still. Oh, this is about to come off. Get this. That's about to break off. So we'll save that. Ready? Make sure this glass stays. Right edge, here we go. All right, so I need to come left, left. Here we go. In the center. Those are all hits, right?
Yep.
So
This optic may have some flaws and isn't perfect by any means, but one thing can be said. This is not the worst optic that has ever been issued to our armed forces.
this bad boy still zeros.
For those of you who still want to rag on the ACOG, try doing this to your LPVO or red dot, and maybe you'll see why this is a trusted choice. This is a top tier optic, and while it may seem expensive, it's not with the proper perspective. I have an old catalog page from 2004 when I went to buy one at $1,049. Fast forward 20 years and you can pick them up for $1,200 to $1,400, depending on the model. A $100 to $300 increase in 20 years with features that actually live up to their value and a durability score beyond expectation. The price here is truly fitting, unlike a lot of other choices, like an $850 red dot without a mount. If you saw my charts on my red dot versus LPVO video, you'll see why I ranked the ACOG so high on the durability attribute. Honestly, this thing would probably extend beyond the chart somewhere about here. I personally want to thank Trijicon for such early innovation, durability, and the service to our country for the money well spent on an optic I would gladly pass on to my family for years to come, so that if I don't use it in the apocalypse, that they sure can. I'm not sure if some of the other GWAT optics can say the same. Thanks for watching, and Trijicon, if you're watching, let's talk. I'd love to see some updates to this glorious optic, and thanks for letting the public have access to the same optics that our tax money buys the military. Other companies can't exactly say the same.
Oh no, you don't. You guys really didn't think I was going to end this video without shooting this at the rifle range, did you? I want to say super thanks to everyone who's been watching since the beginning, and everybody new that's watched. I want to say also, do not do this at home. It's totally not worth it. I just did this for you guys. The ACOG was already ruined, but I want to go down and see how this performs out to 400 meters, maybe 500, depending on how busy the rifle range is. And yeah, it's the final test to see if this bad boy can live up to its expectations. See you at the rifle range.
Out at the rifle range, I first confirmed at 100 yards center, and then immediately trued in at 300 yards, just like I did in my truing the ACOG video. Since this optic has cracked glass in the center, I have to slightly move my eye off of center to use the BDC at the proper distances clear out to 400 yards. These ACOGs are said to have horizontal parallax, so let's see how much that affects my impacts on top of the damaged condition it's in. If you're surprised right now, you shouldn't be. This thing is a beast, so for fun, let's try to get some impacts on at 500 meters. All right, let's check the impacts. Here at 100, we got good impacts. 200 looks nice and level. And at 300, we got good impacts, plus my impacts from truing it in, of course. And out at 400 yards, we got some nice and centered hits. Out at 500, I couldn't really hear my hits at this distance, so all I have to do is look for extra shiny impacts from using the M855 penetrators. 3 shots and 3 hits, and there you go. The ACOG that will not die, number 867337, you have earned my forever respect. Time to get out of here because I have another ACOG that needs some attention. Also, if you could, please share this video to an ACOG hater or two, that'd be great. The article about the Marine ACOG is in the description, as well as my low ammo training handbook for beginners if you'd like to pick one up. Thank you, and see you on the next video.
Range is hot.